Unhinged morons go berserk on border czar Tom Homan, to which he gave 0 Fs. Gavin Newsom had a bronze bust of himself installed, and an MSNBC leftist thinks Trump voters are poor. It's time for my losers of the week, but first, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the Tomi Lahren is Fearless YouTube page at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. The show starts now. It's March 13th, and yes, Democrats are still off their rockers when they're not taking to the streets during normal working hours to protest for Hamas and Hamas lovers. They're congregating inside the New York State Capitol to harass our border czar and protest the removal of illegal aliens. You know, they think they're making a huge impact, but by the looks of Tom Homan, he's not exactly shaking in his boots.
No hate, no fear, immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear, immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear,
Homan is so unbothered, he didn't even pause eating his apple to give those weirdos the time of day. But one of the weirdos is New York Assemblyman and New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, who can be seen in the footage acting like a feral maniac, amongst many other feral maniacs, of course. You know, he might have gotten his little moment there, but again, if he thinks for a second Tom Homan is deterred or gives a rat's ass about these protesters, they apparently aren't too familiar with the legend that is Tom Homan. Moving right along to my next loser this week and every week, as a man who thinks he is a legend and is desperately trying to get you to think so too. In fact, Gavin is trying so hard, he even allegedly had a bronze bust of himself installed inside San Francisco's City Hall to commemorate his term as mayor. This all according to the newly released book, Fool's Gold, The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traitors Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten Us All, written by Susan Crabtree and Jed McFadder. In the book, the authors allege Gavy Boy arranged for that sculpture to be made using funds he controlled, but then pretended he didn't know anything about it. Look, if Gavin wants to be honored in San Francisco in a more fitting way, I have a better location for that statue. Yes, the infamous overpriced public toilet is much more appropriate. But speaking of appropriate or inappropriate, rather, my final loser this week is an MSNBC guest, which is not at all surprising. While commenting on President Trump's White House Tesla purchase this week, this particular guest mocked it because apparently Trump voters are too poor to afford Teslas.
Yeah, Julie, what's your reaction to this Tesla stunt? Is it ironic that the president is now touting electric vehicles?
I mean, first of all, it's not legal. Let's start with that. Second, I mean, you can't do this on the property of the White House. It's federal property. Second, I mean, really, the president is basically a car salesman now. It's just astounding with everything that's going on. I mean, literally, with everything that's going on in the world, he's taking time out of his day to array 4 or 5 Teslas on the White House lawn and basically act like a showroom salesman. By the way, I don't know who he thinks is buying Teslas, but I can guarantee you that they're out of reach, many of them, for the average Trump voter. So I'm not sure who in the MAGA universe he's urging to buy Teslas, because Teslas consistently, in previous iterations, were bought by wealthier, more environmentally conscious people.
I just want to make a note as well that President Trump and Elon Musk are so great, they actually got liberals to rail against and hate electric vehicles. But I want to make sure I have the running list up to date here. Democrats and their expert cable news strategists believe Trump voters, more than half the population of the U.S., are racists, sexists, misogynists, deplorables, xenophobes, transphobes, homophobes, rednecks, rubes, fascists, Nazis, and now also poor. And there you have it, America. Joining me now is Gen Z political commentator and former RFK Jr. campaign advisor, Link Lauren. All right, Link, let's just go right in on that last one there. Apparently, Trump voters are also poor. You know, Democrats and the strategists that do their bidding, they seem to have a really low barometer for what Trump voters are. Again, more than half the country. I'm not sure they're going to sail to any election victories anytime soon with all the name calling and all the belittling of half the country. But what's your take?
Well, it's great to be back with you, Tommy. This is just another display of what the MSNBC Democratic elites think of working class Americans. I mean, they like to fly between Los Angeles and New York and look down on the rest of the country with judgment, right? So calling Trump supporters poor is disgusting. It's gross, but it's not shocking at all from the MSNBC crowd. Also, they had no problem with Joe Biden having cars out in front of the White House. I believe he had a bunch of Jeeps come to the White House a few years ago, but it's only when Trump does something that it's a problem, Tommy.
Of course. I'd also like to point out here, besides just being stupid to label half the country poor, they can't afford Teslas and all this, I'm not sure the Democrats, well, I know they don't, have a consistent message here. Because on the one hand, and maybe even in that same segment, they decry people like Elon Musk, the billionaires, the wealthy. You're going to give tax breaks to the wealthy. So apparently Republicans and Trump voters are billionaires and wealthy. But then on the other hand, they say Trump voters are actually too poor to afford Teslas. So what is it? Is it bad to be rich? Is it bad to be poor? I'm not so sure. The Democrats used to be the party of the working American, or so they proclaimed. But now it seems that they just crap on every income level. I'm not sure what the Goldilocks just right amount of money is to make if you're a Democrat or a Democrat strategist, but I thought I'd just point that out.
No, absolutely. I mean, the Democrats are really in an identity crisis right now. Even if you look at Jasmine Crockett or Congresswoman DeLauro or Adam Schiff, they're walking through the halls filming these cringe, bizarre TikTok videos. Nobody wants to work. They want to twerk, but they don't want to work. And we're seeing that every single day. And they want to continue looking down on working class Americans. And they say, Trump, he's buddying up to these billionaires. Trump has all these billionaires supporting him. Well, yes, they want businesses to succeed. They want a secure border. They want a country that is strong. But what about the fact that Joe Biden gave a Medal of Freedom to George Soros right before he left office, who was his billionaire backer? Same with Hillary Clinton. And then George Soros didn't even show up to collect the Medal of Freedom. He sent his son, Alex.
And again, I don't understand here what demonizing rich people does. They also used to love Elon Musk. So again, it's just anybody who likes Trump is a problem for them. That's going to be the way that it is. That's all that they have, I guess. I think the act is getting a little old. But I do want to give some credit here to somebody I never thought I would give credit to, and that's Rosie O'Donnell. Okay, and I'll tell you why, Link. Because so many of these celebrities say that they're going to leave the country, and then they never leave the country. So Rosie did two things that I'm going to applaud. One, she actually followed through, and two, she left. Thank God. I mean, listen, we cry no tears, but Trump had a really interesting commentary on that when he visited with the leader of Ireland. Let's take a look at this clip.
Ireland is known for very happy, fun-loving people. Why in the world would you let Rosie O'Donnell move to Ireland? I think she's going to lower your happiness level.
That's true. Thank you. I like that question. Do you know you have Rosie O'Donnell? Do you know who she is? Do you know who she is? Yeah. You're better off not knowing.
Okay, so President Trump is a comedian. I'll say that. I'm happy Rosie left, Link, but here's my question that I want to pose to you. Okay, it might be a rhetorical one, but we'll see. So anytime these liberals leave because they hate Trump, they hate Republicans, whatever, if they actually do leave, most of them do not, they always flee to the whitest possible country that they could flee to. It's kind of like when they moved the All-Star game out of Atlanta and they moved it to Denver out of, for racial issues. So they moved it out of a predominantly black place to a very, very white place. If they love these countries, if they love Haiti, if they love Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico, obviously part of the United States, but if they love all these other places that they publicly cozy up to, why do they always choose to flee to the whitest possible regions that they can?
Well, I wasn't expecting Rosie O'Donnell to move to Uganda, so Ireland is much more believable for me. I am so happy Rosie O'Donnell is gone. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Goodbye, Rosie O'Donnell. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And my issues with Rosie O'Donnell have nothing to do with back in the day, right? Rosie O'Donnell, she made some decent points when she was on The View. Okay, here and there. My issues with Rosie O'Donnell is the fact that she was sitting around posting these ridiculous TikTok videos while her daughter was being arrested arrested time and time again for meth. So when the mom doesn't have time to take care of her daughter, she's detached from reality. She's being eaten up with Trump derangement syndrome. It's taken many. It's taken some of my friends, some of my family. They've been eaten up with TDS. So Rosie O'Donnell, she was not contributing to society in any way, shape, or form. So let the Irish people enjoy her. Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, geez, what a bullet for that country to bite. But better them than us, I suppose. Though we love the Irish people, so I feel
Yes.
badly for them. But whatever, maybe she'll contribute something. I'd also like to point out, and this is just me being a little shady on a Thursday, but when I look at these liberals that are making these videos of themselves, and they just look so bad. They look haggard. They look 20 years older than they actually are. So liberalism, I don't know if, and I've asked this question before, I don't know if you're ugly and then you're a liberal, or you're a liberal and then you're ugly. I'm not sure. It's a chicken and the egg type of thing. And again, this is me being petty and shady and mean on a Thursday, but I just can't get over it. And my thought to this is maybe they don't care how they look, but there are a lot of great filters out there. Just throw a filter on that so we can at least, watch these videos and not be completely just turned off by them. But that's just my little shady commentary. I want to move on to something else since we're talking about white things. Snow White. The movie hasn't even premiered yet, but already they are maybe downgrading their expectations for what the movie is going to do because their star was just so insufferable. I believe it's going to actually open this weekend. Link, do you plan to see it?
No, I don't plan to go see Snow White. Also, all of the pictures I've seen from the new movie look absolutely terrible. It's supposed to be Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, but with those guys, it looks like Snow White and the Seven Hipsters from Brooklyn. This does not look like a movie I'm interested in seeing whatsoever. And Rachel Zegler, she was an utter calamity for Disney. I think they wish they could go back and cast somebody else. I'm really shocked that the Snow White movie is finally coming out. I feel like it's been years and years of going back to the drawing board and trying to make fetch happen. We don't want it.
Yeah, and the thing is people would have still watched it even if it was maybe a little bit more woke. Little kids would have still wanted to go watch it. The reason is because of her that people are not going to watch this, even without all the woke remakes of all this. And apparently she's not white because of her skin. She's white because she's, survived a blizzard or whatever. Because apparently it's a crime to be white. But it's her because she crapped on the movie and the whole premise of the movie when she was doing press before the movie had come out. I mean, this was like a year ago, so way before the movie was even going to premiere. She was already crapping on the very thesis of the movie. So are people really surprised that it's going to tank? I'm not at all. Disney, boy, they've just had a series of losers. Do you think there's any hope that they're going to finally understand that people don't want this?
I don't know, because go woke, go broke, but Disney has not learned yet. So I don't understand what their business model is. I've been saying this since November 5th when Trump won in a landslide victory. If these Hollywood media companies and studios don't start reaching out to the 77 million Americans who voted for Trump and the millions who abstained from voting for Kamala, moreover, they are going to continue to fade into obscurity. And not everything has to be woke or have some social justice story or narrative. And if you look at Cynthia Erivo from Wicked, she was just cast to play Jesus Christ in Jesus Christ Superstar, and she's a bald, black, queer woman. So I think Hollywood is almost punking us at this point, but they're punking themselves because they're going to continue to go down.
And, they just exist in their own little world. And I think that their cultural relevancy has gone down. People aren't watching movies like they used to. I find most movies at this point to be insufferable. I just don't find that there are a lot of good movies being put out. There are good series that are being put out, but movies, it's just hard to find anything to watch. You almost have to just go back into the archives and watch things pre-2020 when everything just went completely downhill. I want to shift back to politics now because this I thought was another interesting moment. During that same little press conference yesterday, President Trump was talking about, of course, some of the protests and also the looming government shutdown. But he, instead of calling him Shutdown Schumer, which many people are calling him today, he had another theory about Chuck Schumer that might be a little controversial. Let's play it.
And Schumer is a Palestinian as far as I'm concerned. He's become a Palestinian. He used to be Jewish. He's not Jewish anymore. He's a Palestinian.
Okay, so mixed reactions to that. It's Donald Trump being Donald Trump, but what's your take?
Well, it's interesting because Trump and Schumer go way, way, way back. I remember Trump even joking about Chuck Schumer at the Al Smith dinner, like, hey, we used to be friends. Remember back in the day in New York? I'm sure Trump gave him money back in the day 20 years ago. So they've always had this little beef and this back and forth. And there was that infamous White House meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in 2018 where they really duked it out. It was sort of the precursor to the Zelensky meeting a few weeks ago, which was an amazing showdown. I think with Chuck Schumer, though, if you're not really going to stand for Israel, if you're going to allow campuses to be overrun in New York and you're not going to put your foot down, then you're not really doing your people a service. So I understand in Trump's mind where he's coming from, Tomi.
Yeah, I do too. And this whole thing is so annoying to me. I've been talking about it all week, but it continues. This Khalil stuff and these people that are putting out, and it's endless. It's like, he's got a green card, you can't deport him, all this stuff. It's like, no, you don't have a right to be in this country on a student visa. First of all, you're 30 frickin' years old. Okay. So he came here apparently. And again, this is like reporting that I'm not.
He got held back.
Yeah. Listen, and he's been on these campuses. I believe he actually might still live in campus housing as we speak. Now, again, I got to get some clarity on that, but I'd heard one report that was the case. There's no need for you to be 30 years old living on a college campus. There's no reason for you, and if he's still a grad student, whatever, there's no reason for you, if you are in fact a student, to be going and preaching pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic, disgusting, abhorrent behavior. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio has laid it out time and time again. Listen, we don't have to have you here. Like, we don't have to accept you. You know, you can come over here and you can study, but the admission process should have been, hey, listen, do you love terrorism? If so, we're not even going to let you come study here. But the fact that the Democrats are dying on this hill to me, and they want to label it a free speech hill, I just don't think it's translating to people that are like, this person is a pro-terrorist here.
Absolutely. I mean, if I went to another country, or you or anybody watching, and we started protesting and creating chaos and disrupting campuses, we would either be thrown in the slammer or deported, right? We are a country of laws. We're a country of immigrants, but we're also a country of laws. And this guy, if he's 30 years old, hanging out with a bunch of college kids and creating chaos, you've got to go. You're like a real life Billy Madison. I don't know if you got held back or what's going on with you, why you're still there. But no, this would not fly in any other country. And I don't think this is a free speech matter, right? If he's breaking the rules, breaking the law, and disrupting, the way things are, then you got to go.
Got to go, and I hope he does. Here's another fun little thing here. BLM, as you know, they're taking the mural off the sidewalk, and some people, I think Sunny Hostin, she felt personally attacked by removing the Black Lives Matter off the DC plaza. I don't know why any group should get a mural in a public space or in a plaza in DC that their lives matter and other people's don't, or whatever. I think it's stupid that they painted that anyway. And the fact that people are now like, oh no, you took away the mural, so now racism. But you guys keep saying that racism is so prevalent, so the mural didn't solve the problem, or did it? I don't know. Again, get a consistent message. But I thought it was funny that the rapper Lil Yachty was on some sort of a content whatever, and it was talking about BLM pretty honestly. If he would have done this in 2020, probably would have been canceled. But today, I guess we're doing some truth. Let's take a listen.
You spent $100,000 on a trip to Disney once. How much have you spent on charitable causes this year? What about the year before last year?
Oh, well, that year, that's a good year. Yeah, it's just blurry. I be doing so much.
BLM? Since you want to be so black power?
BLM is a scam.
Clip that! Send it to the fucking news.
BLM was literally a scam. They had bought mansions, and you probably wouldn't know anything about it because you don't care about black people.
So again, it was funny. I mean, this is like an influencer's YouTube channel. You can't really keep up with all the people that are influencers and have YouTube channels these days. It's a lot. But, really, it's honest. And I think it's great that, he can see it. And I think the rap community has seen through not only BLM, but the Democrat Party. There's so many rappers on the Trump list now. Are we winning over culture? And dare I say, maybe even a little bit of hip hop culture?
Well, what's interesting is that Trump made inroads with so many ethnic groups in this last election, right? He made inroads with Latin Americans, Black Americans, Asian Americans, because he was talking about securing the border, fixing the economy, and bringing some money back home and not funding the war in Ukraine, et cetera. So these are issues that people overwhelmingly supported. But what's interesting for the Democrats is they're the ones who want to make everything about race, right? We don't need a Black Lives Matter plaza. These people, they're all about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but they're so much more obsessed with race than anybody on the right. We want to treat everybody equally. And I think sort of the underlying premise of Black Lives Matter is that Black people are less than or they're victims, but the Black people in my life do not feel that way. We have exceptional Black people working with Trump. We've had Barack Obama, who's a Black president, Black senators, Black leaders. So this narrative of Black Lives Matter, I think it was something people glommed onto during COVID because they were stuck inside. They were looking for a reason to go out and protest. And there was a lot of money being pushed in to get people out there agitating and burning down buildings.
What a stupid time. I mean, again, we look back and this was 5 years ago that COVID was thrust upon us, almost 5 years from the George Floyd mayhem, and just what a dumb time. Like, you can't go outside to walk on a trail, but you can go outside and loot from the Louis Vuitton in the name of George Floyd. Like, what a dumb time to just be alive. I'm so glad that era is behind us now. May we never be dumb enough to resurrect it. It's just so crazy to think where we've come with COVID and everything else, but also the BLM movement. Like the BLM movement, that was the thing in 2020, 2021, 2022. That was all like BLM, George Floyd. And now I would argue much of that same group of people are out like pro-Hamas, anti-Jew. It's just weird. It's like similar behavior with a different cause. But again, it's not protesting. If you're stealing things, you're burning things, you're vandalizing things. What a stupid message. What a dumb couple of movements there. I'm glad that we've largely moved on. I want to go to something that has nothing to do with politics whatsoever. Let's go to the airlines now. Flying is not great. You know, I mean, I have pretty good luck with it. I'm still here. I'm still alive. But it's just become, an anxiety-ridden experience. But now Southwest, that recently cut 15% of its workforce, nobody cried for them on CNN, but they've now changed their bag policy. And this might seem like a small thing, but I think it's worth a public debate. They're rolling back the 2 free checked bags that they've long advertised, made them different. Do you think this is the start of all good things must come to an end, even on the budget airline?
Well, being from Dallas, I love flying Southwest, and this is the first time hearing about this, so this doesn't make me happy. But yeah, if this is sort of the hallmark of Southwest and you can check these bags and they're rolling it back, maybe they're dealing with economic issues, maybe they don't have the funding or the financing. I also think, like you said, flying is just becoming a lot scarier for people. I'm not really a worrywart, but I see friends and family posting every day, like, I'm getting on a plane, I'm scared. But I have faith in Sean Duffy much more than I had faith in Pete Buttigieg. I mean, the only experience Pete Buttigieg had with transportation was filling potholes in South Bend, Indiana. So having Sean Duffy as Secretary of Transportation at the helm makes me a lot more hopeful. And I'll also say something we don't talk about enough is we're only 50 days into this administration, right? And you had time to confirm the cabinet. So some of those people, they've really only had a few weeks to get in there and do the work. And they're still mining through what happened the last 4 years. Who do we need to cut? Who should we hire? What are we looking for? So I think we need to give some grace to this administration and see what happens with the airlines soon.
And we need to train some great air traffic controllers. I don't know what they need to do to retain those people or get the best people, but it's a really vital job and position. Maybe they're underpaid. Maybe, let's throw some money in that direction and get people to be air traffic controllers. Like we recruit for the military. Let's start going in and recruiting for air traffic control based on merit and skill alone and give these people a good paycheck, because this isn't something we want to mess with here. This isn't exactly like the fries at Burger King. Very interesting the way that this is all shaking out. Southwest, I mean, you said you're in Dallas, you fly a lot of Southwest. I fly a lot of Southwest. I do like Southwest. The boarding policy is also going to change. They're going to go to the assigned seat model. So because now that I know that you're in Dallas and I know that Southwest is maybe one of your preferred airlines, what do we think about the assigned seating on Southwest?
Tomi, this is the first I'm hearing about any of this.
Wow.
This is shattering my day.
Breaking news today.
I actually don't mind doing assigned seating because I would always pay extra to do business select, or at least be one of the first, 15 or so people to get on the plane. Because you know how it is on Southwest and the people watching this. If you don't get one of those first few, if you're not in A, you're probably getting a middle seat, you're in the back, you're fighting for your life. All you you might get is a little bag of pretzels. So no, I actually don't hate this idea of going to assigned seating. This is fine with me.
What Southwest really needs to do if they want to be the hero of the day is they need to change their people that take longer or whatever it is policy, because the people that are pre-boarding, the pre-boarding people, you see that line of pre-boarding people and it's longer than Group A. And I'm like, I'm looking at these people, and I know that you can't judge somebody's, perhaps disabilities, usually just based solely upon looking at them. But I watch some of these people pre-board and I'm like, you walked on there just fine and you sat down just fine. You just so happened to sit in the front in a good spot in a window or an aisle, but they got to cut this out. It's enough. That's the thing. It's anxiety inducing, and having to ask people like, what's your number? I get salty if I'm sitting there and people are trying to get in front of me and I'm A1 and I'm like, listen, I know you're not before me, so let's get back. I get very territorial of my boarding position when I have to do Southwest. It is like Lord of the Flies in the boarding area for Southwest. They need to get this thing figured out. To wrap up our cultural conversation, okay, we're past the Oscars. Nobody cared. I think we're past all the major award shows this year.
Yes.
I'm wondering what you see the direction of culture. We've got the Eagles going to be visiting the White House, which I thought was a great decision on them. So where do you think we're headed in the next year and a half when it comes to pop culture?
I think when it comes to pop culture, we're seeing that it's so much more acceptable to celebrate conservative values, right? You used to never see celebrities putting on MAGA hats or MAHA hats. They had to toe the line with the Democratic agenda, right? They had to buddy up to these Democratic elites, as we saw when they did that big fundraiser in Los Angeles with Obama and Biden and Jimmy Kimmel and Julia Roberts and George Clooney. All of that, I think, has been left behind moving into 2025. It's much more acceptable and celebrated to have conservative values, to want a secure border, to want a secure country, an economy that works for you. There's also going to be this huge push against woke nonsense. Even the most liberal of liberal people I'm seeing go, you know what? This is actually insane to have men and women's sports. This is insane to have men and women's bathrooms. And these are 80-20 issues. So if the Democrats want to keep dying on these hills of having men and women's sports, they're going to continue seeing people leave their party in droves.
Yeah, I agree. They don't have the cultural stranglehold that they once had, and I don't know if they're really ever going to get it back. Maybe. I mean, I think anything's possible. Anything can happen. We can't get too cocky. The last thing I do want to ask you about, though, is because you did work on the RFK Jr. campaign, and I'm sure you're pretty happy with what he's done so far. The meeting this week saying to these big food conglomerates, like, you got to get the dyes out of your food or else. Are you still in touch on that front? And what can you tell us perhaps about some of the other goals of what RFK Jr. might be wanting to do in that space?
Absolutely. So he's implementing a lot of the ideas we came up with on the campaign. Obviously, we didn't know he was going to be Secretary of HHS. We were coming up with these ideas under the guise of, hey, maybe he could win, maybe he could be president. But at least he has a seat at the table, which is what I always wanted on the campaign. I think this is pretty known in the MAHA world. I was pushing Bobby back in January of 2024, right after the Iowa caucus, to go talk to Trump and join forces with Trump. And 8 months later in August in Arizona on that fateful day, he did. So he is implementing a lot of the things he promised on the campaign trail. But when you get into Washington, D.C., there is still a bureaucracy. You still have to learn how to move and shake. And I think people sometimes are under the impression, because he's a Kennedy and grew up in politics, that he has all of this D.C. experience, but he's never been a congressman or senator. So he's coming in, learning quickly on the fly, but he's doing great. Why do we have ingredients in our food that we don't have in other countries? This is disgusting. People are sicker than ever. And I couldn't be happier for him. I texted him a few weeks ago and said how great he's doing and how amazing everything is right now at HHS.
A lot of people are excited for what's to come, and I think these food companies doing it on their own is the best way forward. I don't like regulations. I don't like telling companies what they can and can't do, but at some point there does need to be something done. I hope they just do it on their own, and I just hope that they do the right thing, because that would be a great step in that direction. How close are you with Nicole Shanahan? Because I thought she was fabulous. I spoke to her here in Nashville, obviously still following what she's doing. I know she's still very engaged and very active. Are you still in communication with her?
Yeah, you know what's so funny is Nicole ended up buying a house 5 minutes from where I live. And so we've actually gotten to know each other a lot more since the campaign. I was sort of her point person when she came onto the campaign. There are only a few of us in sort of the VP committee, which sounds way cooler than it was. But yeah, no, she and I got to know each other before even the March 26th announcement in Oakland, because we were like, what do you want to do with your social media? I'm like, I think you should change this, change that. And yeah, I mean, she came and picked me up not too long ago in her car with the windows down, blasting music. We went and got Thai food. I love Nicole. I think she's a riot. I think people don't understand the full scope of what she could bring to the table in terms of MAHA, MAGA, the Republican Party. Not only does she have the financial means to make a difference and really, put her money where her mouth is, she has ideas, and she's coming in and saying, look, I don't have all the answers. I'm new to all this. I was married to the founder of Google, living in Silicon Valley. I was a Democrat my whole life. Now she's coming in and opening her eyes and learning with the public. And I think that's exciting for people to see.
It is, and I like a lot of her ideas, and I like a lot of her curiosity. She put a video out, I believe it was maybe last night, and I commented on it, and her and I were discussing back and forth. I know that she's a little upset with some of the choices in the Trump cabinet when it comes to agriculture. Brooke Rollins, I'm not super familiar with Brooke Rollins, but I know Nicole definitely has a perspective on it.
Yes.
And I've been trying, and I know that Nicole is passionate about this as well, but I've been trying to get somebody engaged in the Trump administration to understand that we need to bring back country of origin labeling on our beef and pork products so we stop importing foreign meat and passing it off as American. Nicole, I mentioned this on her post, and she said that she's been trying to make inroads and discuss food health in that area as well, but she's been unable. So, listen, we can do all we can. The administration's not going to be perfect, but hopefully if we just keep shaking down the doors, we can get the eyes, ears, and attention. And I'm really appreciative to have so many people from the RFK Jr. sphere still being very, very active in this discussion of food safety and health and America first, because it's so important. And I always appreciate your cultural perspectives as well. Link, have a wonderful weekend in wonderful Dallas, Texas. I hope you're not flying Southwest anytime soon, but I'm glad I could break some news for you on that front.
See you next time.
Thanks so much. Folks, that does it for this wide-ranging episode of Tomi Lahren is Fearless. I'll see you right back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.